I use my daughters in sermon illustrations quite often. Like recently we were talking about death, and the fact is that Christians handle death a lot better than non-Christians. And I was leaving for work one day when my daughter was 6 years old, Scarlett. We call her Hurricane Scarlett. She's a little girl with curly hair, and she's kind of a tomboy. And she's never sad, but as I'm leaving for work one day, she says, Daddy, my gecko died last night. And I'm thinking, hallelujah, I hate that gecko. And but I could see that it made her really sad. So I go out to my car, and I turn around and come back in, and I say, hey, listen, honey, what can I do for you? She goes, well, my gecko died, and I was wondering if we could bury him. And I said, sure, let's do a whole church service for your gecko. Man, I hate that gecko. And we put the gecko in a little shoebox and wrapped him up, and we went in the backyard and dug a hole, and I did a little eulogy and wished the gecko be in little gecko heaven and everything. And we put the gecko in the ground and covered it up. And that afternoon when I get back, here's my little girl again. She says, Daddy, can you bury this roly-poly? And I say, oh man, not again. So we go in the backyard, and I dig a little roly-poly size hole, and I say to Scarlett, I say, well, Scarlett, why don't you go ahead and you do the eulogy, okay? And she goes, okay. And she opens her hand up, and there's the roly-poly trying to get away from her, and she goes, go to heaven. Bam! And some people think of heaven and death a little bit differently from others. When Scarlett was first born, her older sister Savannah was 6 years old, and during her first couple of months was right before Christmas. And the pastor of the church we were attending at that time called up and said, hey, Steve, do you have any pictures of your newborn baby? I'd like to show one during the Christmas Eve service to represent Jesus in the manger. And I just so happened I had taken a picture a few days before of my little baby wrapped in a blanket. And so I said, I got a picture for you. I sent it to him, and he said, that's perfect. So I take my 6-year-old daughter, Savannah, the older one, to church on Christmas Eve, and it's packed. So she's sitting on my lap in the front row, and the pastor comes out and welcomes everybody, and he says, today we're here to celebrate the birth of our Lord and Savior, our Messiah, who was born in a manger in Bethlehem. And right then, the picture of Scarlett comes up on the screen. And Savannah turns around in front of everybody, and she goes, I thought she was born in Tri-City. Most of us are old enough to remember Art Linkletter's show, one of the funniest shows ever. For those of you who don't know, Art Linkletter had a show on for many years where he would interview children, and some of the funniest stuff ever came out of those shows. One day, Art Linkletter had a little boy on his show. He's about 6 years old. And he's talking about prayer. I don't know how it came up. But the little boy said, yeah, my parents love me. They pray for me every night. And Art Linkletter says, really? What kind of prayer? He said, oh, they say the same prayer every night. As soon as they tuck me in and they go in their room and shut the door, I always hear him say, thank God that kid's asleep. He had a little girl one day, and the little girl's talking about Sunday school. It's her favorite time of the week. And she says, yeah, in Sunday school we learned about Adam and Eve. And Art Linkletter says, what do you know about Adam and Eve? She goes, well, Adam and Eve were in the Garden of Eden. And she's real confident. She says, and God got mad at them because they ate from the wrong tree. And God kicked them out. He kicked them out of the Garden of Eden. And Art Linkletter said, where do you suppose they went? And without missing a beat, the little girl goes, Las Vegas, Nevada. That makes perfect sense to me. Heard a story about a little girl who's, she's like 8, 9 years old, and they're having Thanksgiving at their house that year, so the mom's invited all these friends and relatives. The little girl doesn't really know half of them. When it gets time to say grace for Thanksgiving, the mom says to the little girl, she says, Kathleen, why don't you say grace? And the little girl says, I'm not saying grace, Mama. And she says, no, say grace. You got to say grace. She goes, I'm not saying grace. I don't know what to say. And she says, young lady, you are going to say grace. Just repeat a prayer that you heard me say recently. And the little girl goes, dear Lord, why in the world did I invite Cousin Kyle to this event? Here are actual prayers that children have written in Sunday school. This is, got this off the internet. These are actual prayers in Sunday school. Dear God, I bet it's very hard for you to love all of everybody in the whole world. There are only 4 people in our family, and I can never do it. Isn't that cute? Dear God, maybe Cain and Abel would not kill each other so much if they each had their own rooms. It works out for me and my brothers. This is a pretty good request. Dear God, please put another holiday between Christmas and Easter. There's nothing good in there right now. Isn't that a good prayer? It's my favorite one. A 5-year-old wrote this. Dear God, thank you for my baby brother, but what I asked for was a puppy. You got it wrong, God. I was bringing my niece, Lacey, to church. She's 6 years old in Louisiana, and was taking her to her Catholic church, and she says, Uncle Steve, can I practice? And I said, practice what? She said, can I practice going to church? She goes, oh. I said, okay, go ahead. She goes, Our Father, who art in heaven, how do you know my name? Isn't that cute? It's just cute, isn't it? You know, just as bad as when adults mess up. I mean, I teach the Bible class for dummies to help people who don't know anything about the Word, and I love that. I love teaching my class. I had a lady one day who came in one day and said, is the word Genesis somewhere in the Bible? That's how little she knew about the Bible. And do you know she's in ministry now? She heads a women's ministry team because, and I've never charged for my class. It's always free because I cannot get paid more than that right there. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, sometimes it's kind of funny when people who know a lot about the Word just say the wrong thing. They don't intend it. They just kind of say it, or it comes out wrong. Like the worship director in Racine, Wisconsin one day on a Christmas Eve, who stood up before the congregation and said, our next hymn is going to be Angels We Have Heard Get High. He just said it wrong. He just said it wrong. There was a pastor in Mississippi one day who stood up in front of his congregation and said, this being Easter Sunday, we will now ask Mrs. Shirley Jackson to come forward and lay an egg on the altar. And then there's a Baptist preacher who, Tennessee, doing a fire and brimstone preacher, because he had heard that some members of his congregation had a still. Some of the guys had a still. They have those in Tennessee. And he was so upset with his congregation. He said, listen to me. If I had a still, I would dump all of that liquor in the river right after this church service. If I had any kind of booze at all, I would dump it all in the river. And then the poor worship director gets up next and says, our closing hymn today is, Shall We Gather by the River? I had a wonderful time meeting with your pastor about a week ago. Wonderful guy. I thought about this story. I heard one day this pastor's working late one night. Pastors work late, and he's in the office and picks up the phone, and here's a conversation. Pastor Davis? Is this the Pastor Davis? It is. Are you the pastor of this church? I am. This is the IRS calling. Do you know a man named Tom Jenkins? I do. Does he attend your church? He does. Did he donate $10,000 to your church recently? He will. I wrote these down for you. These are actual listings and sayings that people have done in church. And again, they didn't mean for it to come out sounding this way. Just the way it sounds. This afternoon there will be a meeting in the south and north ends of the church. Children will be baptized in both ends. Our sermon this morning is Jesus Walks on Water. Our sermon this evening will be Searching for Jesus. Bertha Belch, a missionary from Africa, will be speaking tonight in Calvary Methodist. Come and hear Bertha Belch all the way from Africa. At the early service tonight, our sermon topic will be, what is hell like? What is hell like? We invite you to come early and listen to our choir practice. Ladies, don't forget the rummage sale is a chance to get rid of those things not worth keeping around the house anymore. And remember to bring your husbands. I just love your laughter. I'm just soaking it in. Thank you so much. Next Saturday, I'm teaching the traffic school, and let me just tell you, it's a different crowd. It's a different crowd. You know, traffic school is where you teach for 8 hours people who have traffic violations, and they say you learn something every time you teach. I know every time I prepare a message, I learn something about the Bible. Still to this day, every single time. Here's what I learned from teaching traffic school for over 20 years. There's a lot of people who should not be driving a vehicle. A lot of people. We go around the room in the morning and we find out what people get their ticket for. Oh man, that is so enlightening. We had a dude one day who told the class, he said he approached the intersection where the red light was flashing. He told us he had timed it so he could go between the red flashing lights. I had a 68-year-old woman in my class. When she stands up, she's got the little purse on the arm. Hi, everybody. Hi, Stephen. I said, hey, what's your name? She goes, my name's Gloria. I said, Gloria, what do you do? She goes, oh, I'm just a grandma. I said, what's your violation? She goes, oh, I was going about 70 miles an hour. I said, that's kind of fast. Which freeway? Oh, it wasn't a freeway. It was a school zone. I said, why would you be going that fast in a school zone? She goes, quote, because I don't like kids. I don't like kids. There was a guy here who landed at Los Angeles Airport from Italy, first time in America. Wanted to take his kids to Disneyland. He lands at the airport in Los Angeles, and the police caught him going 100 miles an hour down the freeway because he thought the 101 sign was the speed limit. I read that. I said, good thing this dude wasn't like on the 405, you know what I mean? They would have been small. How about on the 1, hitting the brakes? Too fast. Too fast. Had a Marine one day driving a 29 Palm. This was so funny. He said the cop pulls him over. It's in the middle of the night. In a desert, Palm Desert. The cop pulls him over. Says, why are you going so fast? And the dude says what everybody says. He says, I'm only trying to keep up with traffic. And the CHP officer says, there's no other traffic around here. And the dude goes, I know, that's how far ahead they are. That's how far ahead they are. I learned how to drive from my uncle Raul Boudreaux. He's the funniest dude I ever met my whole life. He's about this tall, and he's Cajun. I'm Cajun. I'm from Louisiana, and he's got that accent. So everything he says is just so funny, you know. Remember one time we were in this restaurant. He had just gotten back from Texas and had a real bad experience over there. And my uncle, he was just kind of out of it. He starts trying to give me advice. So he looks over at me and he goes, Steve, let me tell you something, partner. The only thing come from Texas, ugly women and great football players. And right then this great big dude sit up next to us. He goes, my wife is from Texas. And my uncle goes, oh, what position does she play? So anyway, that's who taught me how to drive. The first time we were driving in his pickup truck, he's telling me about the rules of the road, and he goes right through a red light. Shoom! I said, didn't you see that? It was a red light. He goes, yeah, partner, I seen the red light. Don't worry about them red lights. My uncle is the one taught me how to drive. Now I'm teaching you how to drive, and my uncle don't stop for no red light. Next red light, right through it again. Shoom! I said, look, another red light. He goes, don't worry about them red lights. I'm telling you, man, my uncle is the best driver in the world. He don't stop for no red light. One right after another, he wouldn't even slow down. We got to a green light. He slammed on the brakes. I said, look, it's green now. He goes, yeah, I see it, partner. That's my uncle coming through the intersection. Driving one day, we hit a cat in the road, and my uncle went knock on the neighbor's door. He goes, Miss Marlene, I'm so sorry. I'm Boudreaux down the road. I do believe I done hit your cat. And she goes, well, Boudreaux, I have a lot of cats. What does the cat look like? He goes, well. She's like, no, what did it look like before you hit it? He goes, well. Did that joke offend anybody? I killed a cat. I know, killed a cat. When I was in Key West, Florida, I was working for the Navy. I saved all my money. I sent my uncle a parrot, a talking bird. Called him up 2 days later. I said, did you get that FedEx package I sent you? And that parrot, he goes, oh yeah, that bird was delicious. I said, you cooked that bird? It spoke 2 languages. He goes, how come you didn't say nothing when I put him in the pot? Yeah. My uncle had a dog show up on his porch one day, and he didn't want a dog, so he brings the dog about a mile out from his house and drops him off. That's how we do it in Louisiana. And the dog shows up a few hours later. Then he brings him 5 miles out, and the dog shows up again. So he tells his wife, my Aunt Jolene, he goes, Jolene, I'm going to get rid of this dog once and for all. He goes 14 miles out from where he lives, goes through 2 sugarcane fields, and goes in circles and drops him off. Calls up that night, he goes, Jolene, can you look on the porch and tell me if that dog is there? She goes, oh yeah, he's been here for a while waiting for you. He goes, good, put him on the phone, I'm lost, I need directions. You guys are laughing too much, I'm going to have to wrap it up. My uncle's gone 85 miles an hour one day, and a young deputy pulled him over and really red in the face, and he goes, sir, you're going 85 miles an hour. Give me your license. And my uncle goes, I ain't got no license. They took that away from me when I got my 3rd DUI. So he goes, give me your registration. My uncle goes, I ain't got no registration. This ain't my car. He goes, open the trunk, please. My uncle goes, you don't want to see that. Back there is the dead body of the guy I just had to shoot to get this car from. A lot of blood. So the deputy grabbed his keys, he called the sheriff, they're surrounded by a police car. The sheriff recognized my uncle. He goes, Raul, that's you? You don't have a license? He goes, yeah, buddy, I got one, here you go. He goes, you got a registration? He goes, yeah, here you go. Open the trunk, nobody's in the trunk. Sheriff comes back, he goes, I don't understand. This deputy called screaming on the phone, he had 3 DUIs. You had a dead body in the back of a stolen car. My uncle goes, what? I bet that man said I was speeding too, huh? I always tell the Marines I speak to that it only takes one mistake to ruin your life, and anything you do, really. Driving is included. And I always like to close by telling you about this one mistake this one person made. This is a true story. A Minneapolis couple decided to go to Florida to thaw out during an icy winter. They planned to stay at the same hotel they had spent their honeymoon in 20 years before. Because of their schedules, it was difficult to coordinate their travel, so the husband left Minnesota for Florida on a Thursday with the wife to fly down the next day. The husband checked into the hotel. There was a computer in the room, so he decided to send his wife an email. However, he made one mistake. He accidentally left out one letter in the email address, and without realizing his error, he sent the email. Meanwhile, somewhere in Houston, Texas, a widow had just returned home from her husband's funeral. He was a minister who was called home to glory following a heart attack. The widow decided to check her email, expecting messages from friends and relatives. After reading the first email, she screamed and fainted. The widow's son rushed into the room, and here's what he saw on her computer screen. To my loving wife, I have arrived. I know that you're surprised to hear from me. They have computers here now. And we're allowed to send emails to our loved ones. I have just arrived, and I've been checked in. I see that everything is prepared for your arrival tomorrow. Looking forward to seeing you then. I hope your journey's as uneventful as mine was. And P.S., it is blazing hot down here. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.